It's not every day that you get to enjoy or experience a brand new gymnasium. But that's what I got to do on Tuesday, along with a couple dozen other folks. Let's talk about that in this episode of the Extended Cutline Podcast. Hey, everybody. This is Nate Beyer for GX3 Media. Again, we host the Extended Cutline Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about the new thing, the shiny new thing, and that is brand new gymnasium at Brookwood High School. So some of you have experienced a new gymnasium in your lifetime. A lot of the schools I visit, the gymnasium is old. It's been there a long time. There's a lot of sentimental value that goes into a lot of our gymnasiums. Again, they're the place that things happen. You won a conference title. You punched a ticket to go to a sectional, a regional, a state, whatever. Dozens and dozens of youth tournament games, proms. Yeah, we had prom in our high school gym. I think we wrecked the floor because I said, let's get a fountain, and the fountain leaked all over. Anyways, there's something about that space. It's home, right? It's home. No matter whether you love or hate your space or you think your space could be better, and let's face it, most high school gymnasiums, they leave a little to be desired as far as I'm concerned. Most of them don't have a unique flair that really, really makes them special. But there are a few that have been designed a certain way that offer some sort of unique perspective, unique take, a building space that kind of furthers, the cause, ups the ante in terms of, what you have to compete with in the area. And that is what I believe Brookwood has done with their new gym. So let's talk a little bit about what I experienced and how we experienced it. So they've been building this thing for, a year or two. It was part of some referendum. They added the referendum included renovations to football field, which also included building a track, whatever. Brookwood's spending money and doing stuff. And quite honestly, good for them. I'm pretty sure, I live in the district, so I got to vote on the thing, and I'm pretty sure I said yes. Again, it wasn't a clear cut, yeah, go vote for the thing. But if you're going to do the thing right and not cut corners along the way, I'm all for it. And with these two giant building projects that they have now more or less wrapped up, I have to say, I think it was probably worth it. And I hope other schools, other communities see what they have and want the same thing. You have to build stuff. You have to do stuff. You have to spend money. As much as I want things to remain the same, the same, comfortable, whatever, we have to make changes. I think that was a point that was made to me by one of our past presidents at Viterbo University. His thing was, we had this conversation probably because I didn't want to see our university change, or the university I went to change all that much. But what he said was pretty true. Hey, if you're not trying to build something, are you really progressing forward, or are you just maintaining? If you're going to grow forward, you need to build. You need to develop. You need to add a building, take a building, reinvent a building. We've seen schools do this. Some have done a remarkable job of adding. Some have done a phenomenal job of reinventing the space they have. And some have added buildings, gyms, parts to their school that you can tell they cut corners. They weren't prepared to make the big money decisions, which is too bad, because now you're stuck with that building that I've seen it in more than one situation where you're just kind of stuck with the building. This is what it is. That's what we could do. But let's look at the positive. Again, we're going to talk about Brookwood and a new gym. It's a new gym. On the one hand, it doesn't sound super cool. It's pretty boring, right? A gym is a big old rectangle. 4 corners. You put a basketball court in the middle of it. You can usually put a couple volleyball courts in it. That's what it is. You walk in at the ground level, you climb up into the bleachers. Sounds like a great idea. That's pretty much the blueprint. I don't understand how they came up with the ideas that they did for this new facility, but what they came up with was pretty gosh darn cool. And I hope every one of you that's listening to this finds a way to come see and experience this building in person, because I think it's best enjoyed not through photos. And I'll share photos. I'll try to get some to scroll here. I'll probably throw some video here and there. It's cool to see, but like anything else, you have to experience it in real life. And hopefully you take some of these ideas. I mean, I've talked about this with, this is what I exist for. I exist like a bumblebee. I go from school to school or community to community with ideas, and I share ideas and I drop them off. I take ideas and I share ideas. Basically, I'm pollinating the flowers with all of our communities, our towns, our schools being those flowers. I'm the bee. I pick up some pollen. I take it from here and I drop it there, and vice versa. Every place I go, I take ideas and I leave ideas. That's how we move the needle and try to move forward. Because if we live in a vacuum, and I've worked by myself very often, it's hard to grow when you're talking to yourself. It's hard to grow when in your community, it's just your bubble. You live in a bubble. You need to live in a bigger world. Anyways, let's talk about what we saw. Brookwood was supposed to open this thing on Monday. I know that there is excitement for the first events to be held in there. It was supposed to be basketball games against the Ithaca boys and girls teams. Weather prevented that. So guess what they did? They pivoted. And I think I like it. Wrestling got to open this facility. Wrestling. When do we ever give wrestling the opportunity to do something like this? To have that prestige of being the sport good enough to open a facility. Especially, think about it, in a gym. When you think of a gym, you think of basketball because we have hoops dangling from the ceiling. You maybe think of volleyball because you will throw posts in the ground and put up nets. But you're not thinking about wrestling the same way. That's why it's kind of cool. So there's a reason for everything. I'm a true believer in that. In this case, wrestling was meant to be the opening event. Now, are there downsides to that? Yes. Why? Because a lot of the general public, quite honestly, does not care about wrestling. So you're not going to get a lot of casual fans to just show up because of the spectacle of this new gym, because they simply don't care about wrestling. I do think a few folks rolled in because it was the opening of a new building. I think there are a lot of people in that Norwalk, Ontario, Wilton school district that just support anything the school is trying to do, and opening the brand new facility they voted for or against, or that they're paying for. Yeah, they want to come see it. That's cool. Do you have that in your community? If you don't, your community has a problem. Because anytime you build something new, that entire community should be there to see it, good or bad. So I'm going to walk you through what I saw. I rolled into the parking lot. Again, kind of weird getting used to the alterations to that parking lot because I've been used to something completely different for many, many, many years. And then you look up. And that, I think, is part of the allure of this building. You have to look up at it. You're not looking at, even eye to eye with it. You have to literally walk up a hill and walk up, this wraparound sort of ramp to get to the entrance. There's something psychological about that. I talk about it with photography all the time. What do you want to do when you shoot a subject? I can shoot them from the top down, but if you want to make them look more impressive, you look up at them. It makes them look stronger, bigger, more heroic. This building in particular looks a little bit different when it's big and tall, and you have to look up at it. Again, there's a psychology behind it. Think about that. So I walk up this ramp. I'm, around a couple of other people that are there to watch their kids wrestle, or, somebody that they're related to, whatever, doesn't matter. You get to the front of the building. Finally, once you climb to the top of the hill, you walk in, wide entryway, I think that there's district office space there. And you hit this concession stand on the one side, you look over to your left, and here it is. It opens up. There's a whole gym space, and you're at the top. You're at the top level, and you have to walk down into your seat. Again, that's different. It's not entirely unique. It's a layout that I've seen in a number of places. I remember going to River Falls and having to walk down into bleachers. Is that the only place I can think of? I think collegiately I've had some other places. But that's maybe like, yeah. Anyways, it's a unique thing to walk in and have to walk down into your seat. Again, I guess Wisconsin Dells would be similar, but they make you climb up steps. Once you get in the building, you have to climb up steps just to go down steps. That's a little redundant. But here, again, you have this vantage point, and again, because it's new, it just hits you differently. It's bigger, it's wider, it's brighter. You've got a 2-lane walking / running track around this thing. Again, it's pretty cool. The part that kind of surprised me was how it joined up with the existing building. I looked at the concession stand and I saw they had a door open, and I looked across the door and it looked really familiar. And then I put all the pieces together. The gym that was built in 2001, so the 25-year-old gym, is level with this one. So they built it into the hill that used to exist. I thought that was pretty cool. Now, it probably actually made a lot of sense, probably made the most sense, because now your two gym spaces are essentially next to each other. Think about that for certain events. But anyways, you have this space. You have this, again, the bleachers look impressive. Plastic bleachers instead of the wood bleachers, colored red and black and white. Cool. There's a big set, and then where the teams sit, there's a smaller set behind it. I don't know. I actually don't know how often those small bleachers are going to get used, because to walk around the facility, just to walk around the court, your big set of bleachers, that's where everybody's going to be. This is a cool thing. Now, if we look at some of the details, these are some of the things that as I took my lap around and I took my lap around the bottom of the bowl, you pick up on some things. And I'm sure as I look, I'll find some other either nitpicks, positive or negative. Now, is this the most perfect facility ever? No, it's not. But there are some nice touches that I thought were, I think, smart or well thought out. Number one, up by there's an elevator as you kind of walk in. If you look around the elevator, they've got wood plated to the wall. Those are old bleachers reused as decoration. And they took the word Falcons from the original court and the original gym that was built in, what was it, the late 50s? They cut it out of the floor and they mounted it on the wall. That's cool. The bleachers that they repurposed into, wall art, more or less, excellent. Great touch. If there's a nitpick with that, it's just that you don't see it anywhere else. I would think I would have liked to have seen it in another corner someplace just to carry that design element through a little bit more. And I could see it in the opposite corner of that gym, just something with those bleachers again, just to, like I said, carry that through. So it's not just a one-off. But what do you have for a facility? You've got deeper baselines. You've got wider spaces around the court. You have this court. I'm going to look at some photos. I'm going to flip through some photos as I record this, just so I can come up with, hopefully a better detailed description. Again, this walking running track runs around the whole thing. For me as a photographer, this goes into the top 5 places I want to cover events at, because I have this upper balcony vantage point. It's wild. You don't have that. And thinking, for me, how close you are to the court. Some of the courts I go to, you are in a mezzanine level, but you are so far off the court, the angle is weird. It's weird. You want to be on top of this action as much as possible. You get that here. I love the media area. You have this wraparound track, but you have this little area that's, I guess, offset, inset, whatever you want to say it. So this table can always stay up. It doesn't interfere with the use of the walking running track, but there is a media area that hangs over the court just a little bit more. like a proper crow's nest, I suppose. Again, it's a clean design. It is just a rectangle. I get it, but this is something that, quite honestly, Brookwood isn't used to having. They built the gym that they're moving out of was built, like I said, in 2001 when detachment happened. So what is that? So I live in Wilton. We made a big fuss in the 90s, created a lot of headaches, whatever. Wilton being part of the Elroy Kendall Wilton, the Royal School District. We whined and cried, and eventually it came down to us fighting to detach. Cool. I went to a vote. The existing school district had to let us go, and the new one had to let us in, and that's what happened. And Wilton's been part of the Norwalk, Ontario, and now Wilton School District for about 25 years. It makes homecoming really a really complicated thing to understand in my world now. Anyways, so Brookwood had built this other gym 25 years ago. It's not bad. The baselines are tight. However, it's not that wide. It seats enough. But what they've built is something just different. And whoever had some of these ideas and thoughts, I feel like they could have skimped a little bit more, but you wouldn't have had this effect. They did a lot of right things here. Again, one of the negatives is it opens with a wrestling meet. One of the positives is it opens with a wrestling meet. You just don't get a big crowd. But it's cool that wrestling got to, kick this thing off. I think Brookwood went 1-1 in duels, or did they go? No, they went 2-0 because they beat New Lisbon, if I'm sure, and Cashin, if I remember correctly. But you put some people in the stands, and maybe you got a few people to come out to a wrestling duels because it was a quad that they may not normally show up for. That's a positive. Again, so I'm going to harp on this. If you live in the area and have an opportunity to get into this building, go do it. If there's a game and your team is playing and you're coming here, go do it. Come see this new thing. Again, we've had other schools build things in the last 10 to 15 years. I don't know if it's a dollars and cents situation. I don't know if it's maybe some not dreaming big enough sort of things. But what they did here is I think that they dreamed pretty big and they were able to pull this thing off pretty well. Again, it's probably not perfect. There are issues that I can kind of see with it, or things that may present a problem in the future. But the look, the layout, it looks cool. If you're a kid going to school there, you should be proud of this brand new thing. And I think that's why school administrators push for these types of things, because you need new things. I remember going to elementary school in Wilton, and we didn't add anything. We didn't build anything. Our building never changed. In fact, the building has hardly changed even now that I'm 25 to 30 years almost out of that building. But that wasn't necessarily the thought process then. If you want to be attractive to new students, to different families, you need to cater to them and give them something not beaten up and broken. You need to give them something that looks fresh and exciting and cool. I mean, I know that people will talk about public schools not recruiting for this, that, or the other thing, but quite honestly, you are. You have to put some sort of quote unquote best foot forward. If your school looks dingy, dumpy, run down, and you're a family moving into the area, that family is going to school choice out because we've made it really easy to bounce wherever we want to go for the most part. You have to do something to try to suck people into where you're at. And because, quite honestly, what I saw here, you want to be at this school. We've got neighboring schools that don't have the same facilities. If this stuff is important to you, there maybe need to be some conversations and some decision making going on. But that's why schools do this. They build. I know it costs money. Don't get me wrong. It costs a lot of money. But I also think that's part of the ecosystem of a school right now. You want to, unfortunately, like not everybody's getting the money to do whatever they want. So you have to be smart with your money and make it stretch as far as you can. But if you're going to build something, you've got to find a way to make it work for a variety of individuals or groups so that they can all buy in and get behind it and say, yeah, let's go invest in this. Anyways, I was pretty impressed with what I saw. If I haven't said it enough, go to Brookwood, go look at this thing. It's pretty cool. We don't have anything quite like this in this area. I've seen walking tracks around the top. Shoot, Arcadia's had that for 20 plus years. Old facility, new facility, that's what they've had. Also, Fairchild, love going there. Cool walking track around the top. Again, that was really unique, I think, for its time. West Salem's got kind of a very similar thing. It was unique for its time. But it hasn't filtered down into some of our smaller schools. And I know that we have gymnasiums that are 50, 60, 70 years old. If it's still standing, there's nothing wrong with that. Somebody told me that the gymnasium in Viroqua is the old, like the original one to that building. That's cool. It's a great facility because it always feels full, but it has limitations. It has physical limitations simply because of how it was built, and it's pretty hard to change. I remember going to Dodgeville for the first time, and I was in their, I guess now I would call their upstairs old gym. It was tight, really tight. At some point in time, that must have been, one of those, this is our gym. This is what everybody else has. But then they built this new thing where same thing. You walk in top level, you walk down into your bleacher seat. That's a really cool facility too. Again, same thing. They were dreaming a little bit, maybe reaching a little bit, but what they pulled off was really cool. And I think worth it. And maybe it keeps a couple of families in your district. I don't know. There are probably a lot of considerations that go into building a new facility. But the things to keep in mind for this, let's see, how long have we been going? Oh gosh. Oh yeah, I can talk a long time, can't I? Again, this is going to be on full display the next few weeks as Brookwood hosts basketball games. I know they have a wrestling sectional here. I'm really curious to see how that gets handled. I think that is one where I'm a little skeptical of certain parts of the facility use. But again, it's got a cool mezzanine. It's got the cool walking track. It gives you some vantage points that you aren't going to get anywhere else. And quite honestly, just like the track and field space, I think they up the ante. And hopefully that pushes other school districts to want to try to keep up with the Joneses or whatever the most common last name is within the district or whatever. Try to keep up with them, to try to keep up with the Brookwoodians. I don't know, whatever. And do what they're doing. Because when we compete with each other this way, we can come up with the cooler thing, the coolest thing. It pushes us all forward, maybe just a little bit. I know it's kind of an expensive gamble, but still, at the end of the day, what's it good for? It's good for the students. It's good for the families in that community. So after seeing what I'm seeing here, I think we did the right choice by voting yes. And the leadership within that school district has done a lot of good things. Now we just need their basketball teams to step it up a little bit competitively, volleyball team to ascend a little bit more competitively. The baseball team should not actually, they aren't going to play baseball in this gym. But again, if you ever get a chance to come see this thing, come see it this year. I know it's kind of the hot topic, the shiny new thing, but it is shiny and it is new. And I'd love to see it when it's new. Eventually, the luster will dim a little bit. But yeah, come on down, see it, mark it, put it in the bucket list, mark it on the calendar, whatever you got to do. But this was done pretty right. So if you agree with me, great. Drop a note in the comments. If you didn't agree with me, drop a note in the comments. That's fine. If you, again, we don't have to agree on everything. If there are going to be problems with everything we do. And of course, I actually haven't seen the gym floor because it was covered in gym mats. My one gripe about the other gym was that it was so red. You had so much of a color cast. Everything looked red. dingy almost. But this, we've got white. The ceiling got painted white. I can think of a few buildings that if you paint the ceiling white, it would open up the entire space. You have, again, the kind of a two-toned cord. I like what they did there. Again, they did a lot of really good things. Not perfect, but a lot of really good things. Take a look. Let me know your thoughts. Leave them below. I'm going to leave you with that today. Shiny new things, sometimes they're all right. Thanks again for listening to the Extended Cutline Podcast. This is Nate Byer. Have yourself a cool day. Good luck shoveling some snow or staying warm. Or if you're listening to this in the summertime or in 10 years on the way, good luck. Tomorrow, sunshine, snow, whatever you get. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you at a game in the future.